One thing you might have noticed from the latest episode of Ahsoka where Anakin shows up in the World Between Worlds and we get the Clone Wars flashback, which was awesome to see. I would love to see a Clone Wars show in live action with Hayden Christensen. Forgot the actor who plays young Ahsoka, but essentially like a Last of Us sort of situation, sort of scenario. I think that would be pretty amazing to see. I mean, that little bit of the Clone Wars there I thought was absolutely fantastic. But anyways, so one thing you might have noticed is that Ahsoka seems really disillusioned with the Jedi. This is something that happened with Dooku, something happened with Qui-Gon and Anakin, and of course other Jedi before them. Now, the thing that I want to highlight here is really kind of how horrible the Jedi Order was with their whole idea of taking babies away from their families just because they're force sensitive. Yeah, they basically took children from their parents and turned them into child soldiers. And you can see the look on Ahsoka's face because that's not really what she signed up for. When you want to become a Jedi, you essentially have this idea that you're going to be some sort of a keeper of the peace, and you're going to be learning some really cool force powers and abilities and developing them and becoming a stronger person in the process. You know, be able to control yourself, your emotions, and your temptations and things like that, and help people. But in turn, Ahsoka was just like killing people or killing droids that were being run by corrupt people and whatnot. She felt really distanced from the Jedi for a long time. At least with Anakin, until the Clone Wars rolled around, it was just little missions here and there. And it wasn't really anything too serious, but it was much more of keeping the peace. And it was long discussions with Palpatine, and that's, how Anakin grew his relationship with the Chancellor. Once the Clone Wars came, it was just full-on war, and it was a completely different story. And so Ahsoka is seeing this, and she's like, I didn't sign up for this. And for Anakin, it had been probably about 10 years of, pre-Clone Wars era for him to actually just be a kid and be a Jedi and be a keeper of the peace. And I think that's like a story that a lot of us really want to see is, young Anakin from The Phantom Menace going into Attack of the Clones. And how does he change? Because that's a really big moment in all of our lives as young boys where a lot happens, from 9 until 19 or 18, we really do change. That would be cool to see anyways. But hey, look, I think that Ahsoka has every right to feel distance from the Jedi with how they treated her and the fact that she was essentially just becoming a child soldier and she just wasn't down for that anymore. She didn't sign up for this crap. She wanted to learn other aspects of being a Jedi, not just killing and fighting. Even just by processing that little line and that little bit, you can kind of see where Ahsoka was at the whole way through. So I thought that was pretty profound. I thought it was pretty interesting. And maybe something that like a lot of people might have missed if, they're just watching it the first time. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think the Jedi were kind of evil because they would take kids away from their parents, babies away from their parents, and essentially turn them into these soldiers? Or do you think that's just a obligation that they had to do once the Separatists took over and Count Dooku fell to the dark side and, really upstarted the whole thing, the whole operation that Palpatine had planned? Is that something that you think kind of had to happen? Or do you think the Jedi just really are scummy people and they're just brainwashing these kids to do their bidding? I can see both sides. Personally, I think, of course, it should, it's like if they wait for the kid to kind of make their own decision, the kid then has attachments. But that's the thing. Who cares if they have attachments, man? Like, I really liked Legends Luke because he was all about like, okay, look, I don't think we should be running away from attachments and emotions. I don't think that's what makes a Jedi. That's like saying, oh, I'm really good at not doing this thing when it's not around, or doing whatever, or controlling myself when my temptation is not there. It's like, well, yeah, that's the perfect world, but at the end of the day, you want to be able to have that temptation everywhere and still be like, nah, not doing it. That, I think, was Luke's modus operandi. That was his sort of thought process when it came to, once he was in Legends. That no, we can have emotions, we can have attachments, we can do all these things, but it is our job as centered Jedi to be able to refrain from doing such things. So I think, that's definitely something that they could implement into there. However, it was far too late because at that point, Yoda was so clouded with the dark side and by the dark side that he was just not really able to see anything anymore. And they didn't really help Anakin at all in any way. They just kind of made it worse for him. And they needed to realize that this is a dude with a special case. So they didn't. And the same happened with Ahsoka. Like, they just really did not give her the time of day when they wronged her. And they were just like, okay, yeah, you can come back. It's like, dude, no, screw you. So I can definitely see why Ahsoka felt distanced from the Jedi. and why she continues in her path today. So, and also I can see why Anakin did. And Qui-Gon and Count Dooku. Let me know what you guys think about it. Are the Jedi evil? Are they ruthless and cold? Or are they just being monks? Are they just being Jedi? You know, monks of a space age. I'm just trying to better the galaxy one new Jedi at a time. But, you know, how would they know the Separatists were going to rise and that Palpatine was going to control both sides of the war? So it's an interesting thought process for sure. But I want to know what you guys think. Until the next one, remember the Force will be with you always.